Welcome to the Men Are Forged podcast. I'm your host, Cartwright Morris. The Men Are Forged podcast is forging men towards a simplified and successful life. So if you're a young professional male, you're looking to make a change in your life, career, or beyond that, then go to calvertandassociates.com, find me, Cartwright Morris, and schedule a strategy session. A career strategy session will help you unpack more of your mindsets, goals, but more importantly, your purpose and your values to how you want to apply to your life and see it affect in your career and in other areas. So go on to calvertandassociates.com and find me, as well as go to menareforged.com and schedule a session as well. If you do not live in the Birmingham area, I do virtual calls for 30 minutes, so feel free to sign up as well for that on calvertandassociates.com. Now, today's episode. All right, good to have y'all in today. Here's my recap of the John Mollura interview. If you'll go to menareforged.com /guest interviews, you'll check out the full show notes, every little breakdown, quotes, his bio. You can even connect with John with some of his websites, Instagram, and his Facebook page. Some real cool stuff he's doing. His Refigure project is really awesome. You could also, scroll to the bottom and sign up for a coaching session as well. Yeah, and support me with the Men Are Forged podcast on Venmo. I always love good donations. Contribute to the cause, as it were. But anyway, so I'd like to take advantage of just this time as a recap and really, help you unpack more of what you just heard of the story of John's life. Yeah, it's just really cool. I just was very thankful for him and just his willingness to share and be open with me and answer a lot of the questions and just kind of a lot of little nuggets, man, in his story. That was really cool. The first question I put on the website here, this is to just help you, would be is when in my life have I discredited an opportunity that led to a positive outcome? John talked about this, of missing out on the opportunity right out of college as for an internship to work with Disney. I think many of us have had this, like we have wrapped our mind around this thought of, this is my big break. If this doesn't happen, then what won't happen? Then that'll lead to, right, we follow the rabbit trail. We start unraveling a narrative of what else is left for me. Our identity is wrapped up in this job opportunity, especially at like 23, 24, which is just insane, right? The more retrospect we get on that, it's just like we go, that's not reality. But at 22, 23, it was huge. This was everything. This was what was going to make me. And I think what's interesting about his story, and you really think about, is so many of us, we are, especially in our 20s, we are looking for something to wrap our identity around. And this could be the core, the soul to our identity. Is it a job? Is it a relationship? Is it where you live, who you're associated with, a cause? Personally, if you really, I'm hesitant to talk about this if you can't tell, is the Colin Kaepernick thing. Is when he was doing his thing, I don't think it's much debate really now of what he was doing was exercising free speech. I completely agree with that, with the kneeling of the national anthem. But everything since then, I resonated with because he seemed a lot like I was when I was 26, 27. I didn't know who I was, and I was looking for anything just to put my identity around because I felt so unknown. I felt so I had such a low one, low expectation of what success was, but I had such a narrow view of it, of what my life was supposed to look like. Success was supposed to be me feeling content at 25, having a wife, kid on the way, a certain type of job in the business world, and that was what success looked like. Or I was supposed to be able to show up to parties and have this great line of I was meaning something to the world, and it was really very outside in living. I was so focused on the outside and not really worry about what did I want, what was I going after, what did I not care about, whether the price tag that I would just do the rest of my life and figuring that out. I think about it's funny. I'm kind of straying off the question here, but I think it does very much resonate with John's story. As we kind of graduate for these identities, like for me, I wasn't a very good athlete, but there was so much success tied around being a good athlete, or even just known to some degree as good at some kind of sport or athletic activity. And, you focus on that, and then it just takes forever for you to unravel that if you're not really willing to be honest with yourself and really having compassion for yourself. Really is it's okay to be good at something, or you don't have to be good at that to be successful. That there's other things that you are good at. And anyway, so I thought that was what, John was kind of his journey recently, and we'll get to, is just unpacking his own story and having compassion for himself. Then he kind of got into that, talking about imposter syndrome, that belief that, everything's going to fall apart and everybody's going to find out that he isn't really that good. And you feel that constantly, that anxiety that you're going to let people down because you're in this place. And that's, for him, I guess, was the other side, is like he was experiencing a level of success and he didn't have the character, he didn't have the fortitude, the sense of self to really rest in that place of success. And that's where we miss out on success. It's like we crave it, but we realize sometimes we need to count our blessings when we don't have it, because then we're people like John who found it. He was making the big bucks. He had the attention. He was speaking to people in big groups of very highly intellectual, NASA, traveling the world, flying first class for his company. But what did that mean when he felt like the whole time that he was an imposter? The whole time he felt like he wasn't worthy of it, that he was going to be found out constantly, right? That he was running this big con and that somebody was going to find him out. Like that's not living in wholeness. That's not living in who you really are and where you want to be. So I think that was what's fascinating about him really unpacking that and really resonate. You need to resonate when small beginnings. You need to really treasure those times where you're like, oh, I'm really just working a 9 to 5, or I'm doing manual labor, or I'm, I think that was for me at 26. I decided didn't have a great job, but I had a job that was providing most of my needs, but I wasn't very good at it, and I wasn't very fulfilling, and sometimes that could be a little trigger word for some of us, but I needed to just put it all down and figure out who I was, and so I moved out to California, worked at this ranch or camp, guest ranch is what they call it. More of a camp though. But anyway, I was working maintenance with a bunch of college students, and it was exactly what I needed. It was just direct, straightforward, because I was in sales. And I was there to figure out who I was, to find God amidst of everything that I'd just basically put this label on him and this label on myself. I needed to take those off and kind of start from scratch, and that's kind of what I needed. And that small beginning of working maintenance, volunteer, living in a cabin where I just left this house where I was living in my brother's house, but I was the only one in there, and it's a 2-2 pretty much. Nice house, TV, cable, internet, all you can want, for a young single guy. And I left that to live in a cabin with 4 other guys and have to walk to a bathhouse and but that small beginning is what propelled me to who I am today, because I was willing to be honest and direct and really value that small place I was in and realize it was propelling me because I had to start with me, because it was me that was going to have to carry success. This is a long answer to this question, but I'm hoping this is helping y'all. But because I think there's something really great with the story, but there was something about me that missed it that I, and then I tell a lot of my guys I coach, I'm like, you got to see, too many times we have the vision of that perfect life, that great life that we want, the life that we really, really want, but we forget about the man in that vision. Who's going to hold up all of those things? That vision that has that great job, that great family, that lives in the beautiful neighborhood and has all these things that he's contributing to and people that depend on him, the responsibility. There's got to be a great man who holds up that and does that well and stewards it well, and that brings fruit from that his family and his family's family and his community thrive off of. Because a guy who, like John, who has imposter syndrome or doesn't believe that he is meant for all that, when he gets all that, he's very much, there's a very great opportunity for implosion, for trauma, destruction, midlife crisis, which has all its variety of disappointments and failures. So anyway, question 1, when in my life have I discredited an opportunity that led to a positive outcome? Yeah, very much value every opportunity. Nothing is wasted in life. God doesn't waste anything. So number 2, what personality trait have I used to hurt others yet could use to help and encourage instead? John talked about sarcasm and now using his humor to build up others or to have fun. I think that's a common theme, I think, among just the culture of men. I know I've done it. I've had friends who are much better at it than me, but you come from an environment where kind of ribbing, giving each other a hard time, and I think there's definitely a place for that, and it's fun. It can be lighthearted, and you just got to know your friend and what friends can take. But at the end of the day, you want an environment that you create, a culture that you create that's like even within the language may not be to build up or encourage, but when you're being funny and you're goofing off and you're kind of giving each other a hard time, it's adding to the other person. That's creating fun, lighthearted, helping them, kind of make fun of themselves as well as you make fun of yourself. That it's not coming from a place of insecurity. I think that's what John mentioned. What was really good, it was coming from that place like he could read people really well, but out of his insecurity, he could, if he felt the light was too bright on him, he could throw it off on somebody by being a sarcastic comment and throw them down and figure out what they were insecure at. And I think, that's when we're ribbing, giving each other a hard time, cutting up, being sarcastic, where is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of insecurity, or is it coming from a place to fun, build up, becoming better friends? I mean, I think all my good friends, have the ability to laugh, cut up, and give each other a hard time. I don't think I have a friend that I'm close to that I'm worried about that I give them a hard time about something that they're going to completely shut down or think I'm the worst person. Generally, that's hard. So when goofing off, so anyway. But there definitely were times in my life where I felt it was coming from a place of insecurity. So, that's something to probably think about, especially as us guys figuring that out. I definitely would recommend kind of figuring what's your humor. Where is it coming from? Number 3, I did 6 questions this time. There was just a lot of good stuff John had. So number 3, what advice would I give my 20-year-old self? What advice would I give my 20-year-old self? Because, he had a great message, and he said it twice. I got him to say it twice because it was so good. And you have to go to the episode to listen. No, the advice that he had for himself was, I'm trying to remember what it was. It was really good. Oh, yeah, that just because you're not perfect, no one's going to abandon you. I think every one of us need to hear that. That's just the fear of We constantly got to protect the image, the perfect image of ourselves, that we can't let anyone in, and we always got to be perfect at what we're doing, our job, our task, and we don't take the position of a learner, a lifetime learner, and therefore we miss out on a lot of growth. We miss out on a lot of love. We miss out on a lot of affirmation, teaching moments, the ability to grow and be better at what we do. That's including like our ability to make money. Because we're worried that if we share our true failures, mistakes, inabilities, that it'll lead to abandonment, people pushing us away, people not wanting to be around us, or, not wanting to be associated with us. Whew, that's a real thing. So what advice would I give my 20-year-old self? That's interesting. Man, probably enjoy it more. Like, stop being so anxious about all these little things. It'll work itself out. Man, really lean into what you enjoy doing. Have fun with it. Learn from every opportunity. There's probably a lot there. There's probably a lot from this podcast, and I'm kind of like unpacking and realizing, man, probably, have compassion for yourself too, man. The ability just to like, we can, it's interesting. We will generally, at least for my story, you tend to give more grace for people that hurt you, people that sinned against you, than you have for yourself. That generally for myself, I will just beat myself up for every mistake, just very similar to John, just like, how could you that I was pushing away by the things that I've done, the sinning that I've done, and the things that I have hurt others or failures I've had. And really, like, it's just like, have compassion for that. And it's like, man, I'm learning. I'm figuring it out. I'm doing better. Did I own it? Did I correct the mistake? Did I repent of it? Yes, at the end of the day, like, I know I messed up. So why am I beating myself up about it so much? Like, there's some kind of like celebrating of that. Like beating yourself up that I was such a bad guy. I did so poorly with that. Like, there's some kind of like weird, there's a term for it and I'm losing the term, but anyway. So just having more compassion for myself amidst life. I was reminded of that today even. So, how was my faith? So this is number 4. Yeah, sorry. How was my view of faith changed has my view of faith changed in the last 10 years? I put an extra word in there, unfortunately. I'll go and correct that. How was my view of faith changed in the last 10 years? How has my view of faith changed in the last 10 years? He kind of talked about this just like growing up in a very Catholic, a lot of us, very rigid environment. John's was very good because it just, had this different perspective on God, and a very personal. It went from very distant, probably would consider himself agnostic, to having a very real moment with God and him showing up in a big way. Two very hard moments in his life, very humbling moments, particularly a friend committing suicide. And he was such in a survival mode of his own life. Yeah, that's just so interesting, is when we become such survivors throughout our life, we don't give from a place of security. We give from a place of insecurity. So therefore, we give to get strength, when really the strong actually give to give strength. When we give from a place of insecurity, we're only giving to get strength, and it's not genuine. It's not reality. It's not true strength. We're not really giving value to another person. But when we're strong, or we're taking care of, we know our values. We know what our core to our foundation of who we are. And I think that's what he meant by his view of faith being changed. just leaning into God, who Jesus is, and that being the foundation of who he is. So I would say mine's changed definitely a lot. It's definitely moved from an institution to more of a relationship, or like a more relational faith. My Christian faith is definitely more, I want it to be more than anything beyond the institution. Even the institution has definitely redeemable qualities, but it can be hard sometimes because you've just seen so much hurt and pain from it. But there absolutely is a lot of good that comes from it, and I think every church is trying to be that, but there's so much connected to the building, right? Which could be have to unpack more for another episode, but I think that's a lot. Yeah, kind of the John story of growing up, going to Catholic school and all that. There's just, we as humans, we've kind of abused a lot of things, and we've, unfortunately, through upholding the institution, have abused others. But we're human, and we're giving each other compassion for that, and we're learning and growing and figuring out that we messed up and hurt others. So anyway, number 5, what painful events changed my life for the good?
Today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Marriage Lab. If you want your marriage to thrive, this is a great opportunity to you, because strong marriages are the bedrock of strong churches, organization, families, and community. This is a 12-month pathway for any of you that are looking to really have weekly engagement with experienced marriage counselors. Not just one, but many. So go to restory.life/thrive to get on the waiting list for this great program that starts in April. That's restory.life/thrive. And make sure you put the word Forge in the promo code to receive a discount on your monthly fee. Now, back to the episode.
What pain? Yeah, he talked about his one painful moment that's really like those humbling moments in our life, like as a dad, like this guy who has, been all over the world doing, these, as a test engineer, doing these random stuff in some, it's probably insane conditions and environments, and having this ability to work in the field in these, different things. And so it's like, and then he gets by himself with his first child and didn't know what to do. The child was crying, and I think he didn't know what, there's a lot of different factors, I think, and just feeling that imposter syndrome wave over him, that he is a failure as a man, and that painful moment of, humbling moment. And usually those are the kind of moments, like if we don't truly look at it, analyze it, break it down, understand it where it's coming from, that we will then avoid it and move on, put spiritual language around it. We will do whatever just to move past it, to get away from it. But really when we embrace it is when we actually bring about good. We become a better father. We become a better friend. We become a better husband, a better man overall. Like that's the end of the day. That's what we're trying to become, better men who love well, who are intentional, that have conviction about what we're doing, that grow in all areas, whether that's financially, providing for our family, emotionally, learning to be settled in who we are, being more present, and taking on life from a strong, healthy position. So I think that comes from just really addressing those painful moments in our life and not moving on from them. Number 6. Yeah, so last but not least, I guess what I'm sitting there playing around with my head is really that last one, the last one I just said, number 5. Yeah, I think a lot of we have to unpack our painful events is with friends, mentors, and communities, someone that really is an ally for us. That's one of my favorite things to really, probably the hardest but more life-giving moments is when you're really vulnerable in front of someone. You really take that courage to do it, and then they cover you. They find that place to just say, it's all right. Yeah, that sucks. But you're here, and you're growing, and you're learning, and, like that, there's something, because I think we've all experienced the other side of we've been vulnerable, and we've experienced nothing but, like, shame, hurt, correction, disappointment, and that just, like, destroys you. So, that just causes you to draw more within and carry more pain all by yourself. So, make sure you go through painful events with others. It's really important. Number 6, what new thing am I wanting to try yet too afraid to fail at? So that was something he hit on real big, is the willingness to fail, the willingness to try something new, the willingness to do something I'm not good at. That's such a hard thing as a man. I think we're such in protection mode of our image that we're not willing to do that. But really what was cool, what he said, is when you're willing to do that, you can actually inspire somebody else to do that. And life becomes more fun, more interesting, more creative. So, there's just certain things when we're willing to do new things, we can unpack ourselves mentally. We can start really using parts of our brain that are needed for creativity. And we've kind of bastardized that word creativity and use it for the arts, which it is, but there's so much more that we can experience in operating our creative spaces and our creative minds, because that's what I mentioned in the episode, that we're made in the image of the Creator, so therefore we are creative, that we need to figure out how to express that in a way, and that really creates sanity in our life. It creates an outlet, creates a level of comfort that is good and life-giving versus other comforts and things we escape to that doesn't do that. But the ability to, be creative and express is such a powerful thing. So I encourage anybody you're thinking about, whether learn to play the guitar or take up a new hobby, get into woodworking or something, I don't know, anything. Just, give it a shot, learn to fail, find somebody to help you, take a class, I don't know, something like that. Just ask good questions. So be curious. Don't just say, well, that's not really me, or that doesn't really fit my group of friends or culture. Just nonsense. Give yourself permission to try something new. Fly fishing. Heck yeah, fly fishing. That's a good one. So, and obviously for some of us, it's, sometimes it comes down to money. But find a way to make that money and give it a priority. Or find something that doesn't cost that much, like running, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, I've talked too long, but I hope this helps y'all. I got some great episodes coming. I hope you get excited. These next two, I'm really excited about. One, because it's someone I know. He's a friend of mine. He's got a great story about how he went into acting. He's very much a Southern guy, a hunter. But, he got into acting and now is out in Hollywood and doing the acting thing. And then 2, next one is Jay Stringer. If any of you have read the book Unwanted, it's such a powerful book, life-changing for me. Just really how our healing is really through understanding our sexual brokenness. It's just a powerful book. He's a great guy, and it was a great interview, so that's coming soon. Last but not least, please go rate and review this podcast. Go on Apple Podcasts, especially if that's where you're listening, hopefully. You can go on Spotify and follow. I don't think they do ratings, but go on Apple and subscribe, and then rate and review. If you would give me a 5-star rating or something close to it, that'd be amazing. But as well as give the review. It always helps me reach a larger audience. And it's just to be a run thing. And then and you can get on my website, mentorforge.com, and subscribe there as well to my email list. Promise I don't bombard you. Generally only give one email a week, and it's these show notes. So helps you get more access and more content that's helpful and meaningful to you. So, all right, I think I am done talking. Thank y'all for listening, and I will see you next time.